100%. Cheers.
Welcome to another episode of Two Bears, One Cave. My regular co-host is having his spine fused. And so while he's out, we have a great guest. If you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious, don't forget to hit that subscribe button like you're slapping the tip of your penis on your partner's forehead. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce MrBallen.
Dude, all right. Very
Yes.
nice, dude. I love the care that was put into that intro.
Thought about it. Konnichiwa. Donde? Yoroshiku.
That's the move, man.
Is that because you're Japanese? Why do you do that?
I don't know. Yeah, I started doing that. Like, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious, that's all we do.
That's all we
and
do.
then I end it with one of these.
These?
Like, all right, into the stories, and then
stories.
I just never stopped doing it.
I was watching that and I was like, cool, I like this. It feels kind of martial artsy.
You know what's funny is I do that so often because I record like all the time.
Yeah.
I'm always making episodes, and I routinely forget what I'm supposed to say that I've said like a million times. I don't know what it is.
You'll forget that thing?
All of it.
Really?
Like when it gets to, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious, then you come to the right, and I'll black out. I just black it out. I have to do
For
like
people
7 takes.
that don't know, that are watching this right now or listening, if they don't know, you, MrBallen, have a wildly successful YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Where you tell stories about things that are strange, dark, and mysterious.
True.
And that you have like what, 10 million subscribers or something?
Just about. We're gonna hit 10 million. I think next week.
Next week. Okay.
I think it's next week. Yeah.
So
soon.
And what it is like you sitting and literally telling these stories.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing, because I was listening to you explain how you made this transition into this thing. But the part I didn't get, like, is this just a field you always had an interest in? Like, did you always like stories like this?
Kind of. Like I would say that the transition from, being in the military to then, telling spooky stories on the internet was not one I had planned. But I like personally was always drawn to like strange, dark, and mysterious content. So like that's the stuff I like to listen to and watch on the internet.
The same, dude. The same. Like, I am your audience. I
Hell
guess
yeah, dude.
I'm one of the 4 males, I guess, right? Because it's like 85% females love this stuff. That's what I always
the true
read.
crime side, yeah.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, so I've been told our YouTube channel, according to like some data scraping, is actually it skews more male than is expected.
Okay.
Don't know why, but then our podcast, which is more true crime centric, is heavily female.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, because the true crime genre is disproportionately skews female.
Now, when you tell these stories, one of the things I got curious, because it's really well done. You're a natural storyteller. You convey the story in a really clear, exciting way, and you follow along. Are you looking at any type of script off camera? Is this all memory? Like, do you research it and then kind of recap it? Like, is that how do you actually put it together?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a little of both. So in the beginning, when I first started making these videos, which was like early COVID days, I really just on a whim basically began filming these videos. One sort of spiked, and before long, I'm like making content every week for this fan base. And when I would watch strange, dark, and mysterious content that I liked, one of the things that sort of it isn't that I didn't like it. I felt like it would be more connecting if the host was on camera.
Yeah.
And it was like you were hearing somebody tell you the story, because a lot of these channels, they do like voiceover over like dark imagery and video, and that's fine. But I just thought it's more engaging to hear some of these stories, like it's a campfire setting.
I was going to say, it reminds me of, actually, I feel like when you're a kid and an adult tells you a story,
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like you just go like, tell me, like my kids every night are like, tell me a story. And I'm like, I'm out of fucking stories, man. Like, I've been telling you,
dude.
They're like, tell me a story of when you shit yourself one time. And I'm like, I've told you. I've told you the 4 times I can recall. And they just want more stories. But there is something about like your channel and the way you're telling these stories. It feels like I'm like, oh, I'm like a kid watching an adult, like.
And truthfully, there was no strategy for that other than it's how I would have wanted to be told a story. And so in the early days, like the first couple of years from like 2020 to 2022, I mean, when I was doing all the research, writing, everything, I would create a script, but the process of researching the story and writing the script out, I internalized the story. And so I would have a script on my laptop off camera.
But you had already like, yeah.
Right. So I would sort of like look at the script and then tell the story, but I would do it in bursts, and I would often do like multiple iterations where I'd change it a little bit. And it just sort of worked. It sort of put me in a position where from that point on, I had to maintain that style. And so I got better and better at, basically I read a script in order to learn the meat of the story, and then I just tell it.
And so for research now,
Yeah.
because it feels like obviously there's an endless amount of stories out there, but you still have to get the story.
Yeah.
Do you solicit stories? Are you guys just out researching stories? How do you actually get the story?
I mean, in the early days, so again, when I was doing it solo, it really was just me on Google. I mean, just looking for crazy stuff with like plot twists and whatever. And, I was always cautious to make sure that we were finding stories that were not, I guess proprietary. They were not somebody else's who owned them. It was like public stories.
That takes a little bit of work, right?
A little. I mean, I talked to a lawyer that sort of explained the defensible, story that you can use, and I sort of just stuck to the guidelines. Basically, something with, that's been publicly reported on. That's more of like this happened and people talked about it versus here's my interpretation of what happened. That's sort of like their story.
Got you.
But now we have, I think over 80 people that work for Ballen Studios.
God damn.
Well, we have a management business so we manage other storytelling creators who need their own infrastructure. We have, a publishing division. We just got into live touring, which I do live touring, by the way. I've done one, but oh my God, it's addictive. It's amazing.
Yeah, you like it, right?
Dude, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But we have, I want to say like 15 or 20 people that are just basically looking in different parts of the world. Like we have an Asian correspondent who's like only looking at like, Chinese material that we wouldn't even know how to sift through to find stories. But again, they sort of fall into that public domain. And it all gets filtered to our writer's room, and I work with the writer's room, and we make
and
scripts.
You have a second graphic novel coming out?
We do. This is the official cover art here. I'll set it up right here. Yeah, so we did a graphic novel last year.
Where Nightmares Live.
Where Nightmares Live. This is the second one. I'm trying to put it in frame here.
Yeah.
It's a collection of 9 stories. Half will be new, half are, fan favorites, and it'll come out later this year.
Well, let me ask you this, because you probably have some insight on this now from having done this for a few years.
Yeah.
Which is, so there's certainly a segment of the population, obviously, that loves this kind of thing, right? Like I said, I'm one of these people. When I go home and I want to wind down, I like suspense, I like thrillers, I like mystery, crime. Like these are the things that like, I don't know, engage me, right?
Yeah.
My wife sits there and she goes, "What's wrong with you?" She's like, "This is all you put in your fucking head? It's all this negative, dark shit." And I'm like, "Yeah, like, this was makes me feel calms me down, and this is what I enjoy." And she's like, "You're mentally ill, But like, it's obviously not just. I'm like, do you think they made this show for me? Like the thing I'm watching?
Yes.
So what I'm interested in is what's your take on why you think certain people just are drawn to these types of stories?
I think it's a little bit taboo in that I think that all of us, in virtue of being human, do sort of have in the back of our minds a little bit of a morbid curiosity because it's what's coming for us all. It's like death is on the horizon, and as much as we do everything in our power to kind of stiff arm that and not let that be a part of our lives, it's absolutely a part of our lives.
Yeah.
It's a part of every decision you make. It's a part of everything. Your whole life is based around the fact that you're mortal.
Yeah.
And I think that content that delves into dealing with people who die, especially in ways that are like scary, it taps into something that it makes you feel a type of way. Like the content evokes true emotion from you. It's like it's touching on something that like is big in your life versus if you scroll on TikTok, right? And I'm not dissing TikTok, but like you're going to be hard pressed to find a particular piece of content, no matter how viral, that genuinely evokes like an emotional response where you remember that piece of content. And so I think like the whole category of true crime, strange, dark, mysterious, this kind of darker side of the internet it's just part of human nature to be naturally curious because no one knows what happens when you die. And then on top of that, we're all sort of basically afraid of death. And so hearing about stories where like the worst thing happened to somebody that usually is pretty relatable, it's not common that, the victims in these stories are like celebrities. They're typically normal people that just were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And like you can feel like, oh my God, that could happen to me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why there's an interest, even though it might just be, oh, I'd like to learn what happened and whatever. No. At the core, it's because we all have this like slightly morbid curiosity. It's part of being human.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also like there's a part of you when you hear this crazy thing that your brain actually is like, that can happen. Your brain goes, that can happen to you.
Yeah.
That could happen to somebody you know. And I don't know, some of that is like, I don't want to say exciting, but it elicits something inside of you that like sparks, right? You go like, oh, it shouldn't be relatable, but all of a sudden it becomes a relatable story because it happened to another person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that in terms of, content that people are really drawn to, it's the stuff that makes you feel something.
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff you're going to recall and tell your friends about. And often it's sort of like, it's either really bad stuff, the evocative, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to him, the dark stuff, or it's sort of like the opposite, like these incredible stories of resilience and like these 1 in a million, somebody who like wins the lottery, who was about to like go broke. It's like, those are the stories that that could happen to me in a good way or a bad way.
That's right. Yeah.
Jack Link's knows there's nothing like a great duo. That's why they created the new Jack Link's Duo. Bro, this kind of marketing, it hits me in my heart. I get so excited. I am looking at hot buffalo style with Chillside Ranch. This new product line brings 2 great flavors together. That means 1 pack, you get 2 legendary flavors. Look at this one. Smoky side and teriyaki. They've got jalapeno and mango, so you can feed the sweet and spicy side, the duo, the original and the teriyaki. And they've got this one, buffalo style and ranch, so you can feed your hot side and your chill side with this duo. I don't know what it is about this, but I feel like I'm getting a deal. Oh, and you can tell which ones you get. This is buffalo. And then you chase it with a ranch. Shut up. Are you kidding me? And it's keto. This is great for a road trip. 2 options for meat sticks. They also have Jack Link's Duo Original and teriyaki beef sticks, and Jack Link's Duo Buffalo Style Ranch and Buffalo Style. They also have Jack Link's Duos Buffalo Style and Ranch Chicken Sticks. These are awesome. Find Jack Link's Duos wherever you buy Jack Link's jerky, your local convenience store, or at select Walmarts. And I'm sure they love that I put their food in my mouth to do this read. But guys, stop making a great product and I won't do it.
Support for today's episode comes from Square, your all-in-one business partner making your day-to-day easier. From point-of-sale systems and payments to inventory and customer tools, Square brings everything together in one simple platform so you can stay organized, sell anywhere, and keep things moving. Whether you're running a cafe, salon, boutique, or something entirely your own, Square gives you the flexibility to grow at your own pace and even set up an online store in just a few clicks. It really doesn't matter what level you're at of running a business, whether you're just getting started or whether you have something and you want to keep it growing. This is the place for you. The hardware looks polished and fits right into your space without feeling intrusive, and the software is incredibly straightforward and intuitive. You don't need special training. You can just set it up and start taking payments quickly. Square keeps up so you don't have to slow down. Get everything you need to run and grow your business without any long-term commitments. And why wait? Right now, you can get up to $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/bears. That's SQUARE.com/GO/bears. Run your business smarter with Square. Get started today. There's, are there stories, because now at this point you're so familiar with so many of them, you've told so many of these stories. Are there ones that stick with you that like you actually think about?
There's one actually. I will tell it to you if you want to hear it.
I do want to hear it.
Okay, so this one, I usually don't tell this one on interviews and stuff because it's pretty graphic, but I feel like this is a good environment to talk.
This is all about graphics.
This is all about it.
Add extra details.
Yeah. Okay. So off the coast of Scotland, about 7 miles off the coast of Aberdeen, Scotland, is this huge structure. Mm-hmm. It's called Magellan, and it's an offshore oil rig. And for those who don't know much about offshore oil rigs, the people who work on these rigs, who are known as roughnecks, they're doing arguably one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. I mean, these structures are like hundreds of feet off, the boiling water down below. It's constantly windy. All the structure is slick, like it's wet constantly. And, if you fall, you could fall literally hundreds of feet to the water, or fall, down at one platform to the next, where there's often not railings barring you from falling, 10, 15 feet below. It's just this really dangerous thing. And then on top of that, the actual drill that sits in the middle of these oil rigs, these massive structures, they almost look like office buildings out in the middle of the ocean. There are these drills that go straight down into the ocean to get the oil. And periodically, there's this thing called, I think it's called a blowout, where basically it explodes and there's really not even a reason for it. And there's nothing you can reasonably do to protect yourself. So these roughnecks who are like in these filthy, hot, like dangerous environments as this drill is pumping all this oil, it could literally just explode at some point. And if you're near it, you're done. Okay. So it's this unbelievably dangerous environment. Not to mention it's very austere. Like you're out in the middle of the ocean, miles from land. And so these roughnecks, like the downside is how dangerous it is. The upside is you get paid really well.
Yeah.
So like that's why people do it. And so typically the people who work, these roughnecks, they work for like months at a time and then come home again. And so I think it was December of 2000, there was this guy named Gordon Moffat, who was a roughneck. He was 41, and he was working on Magellan, this offshore oil rig off the coast of Scotland. And he was a mechanic. And so he didn't actually work on drilling the oil. His job was to basically maintain the drill. And he had done many tours, out at Magellan in particular. He'd stayed there for months at a time, come home. Like, this is a guy who's a seasoned roughneck. And one thing you need to keep in mind about how these drills work is they basically drill 24/7, the drill itself. And at any point it stops drilling. Like if there's an issue with the drill, the people who own the drill are losing a lot of money. It's very expensive to operate. And so this drill goes 24/7 until the oil runs out, which can be years at a time, but it must be maintained at all time. And so Gordon's main job was just at any moment while he's out at this rig, he could be called to do some sort of maintenance. And so he might have weeks where he does nothing, and sometimes he has 5 things to do in the middle of the night. So it's just sort of like the on-call job. That's Gordon's job. And so he finished up one of the basic routine maintenance things he had to do on this particular day. It was mid-December of 2000. And he goes back to his room. And so there's all these little bunks that are on the structure itself. He goes back to his room. He takes off his stuff. And then he suddenly gets a call saying that, hey, there's a new issue with the drill. This is the middle of the night. It's stormy outside. I mean, it's like a perfect setting for a horrible disaster, okay? He gets a call and it's like, hey, there's an issue with the drill. We need you to come back and fix the drill. I don't know the particulars of the issue, but apparently for Gordon, what he was being asked to do was relatively routine, but a little bit complicated. There was an issue where, imagine this drill is this long tube that kind of runs from the very top of the drill, and there's like a circular hole that kind of goes all the way down the platforms itself. The drill fits down through all of it and goes into the ocean. And periodically there'd be an issue with the drill itself where the issue was sort of like in between platforms. There's multiple platforms to the oil rig. And there'd be an issue where the mechanic, in this case Gordon, would have to directly access the drill, but he couldn't reach it from the platform he's standing on here. And if he went to the platform above, these are like mesh graded platforms, it's too far down to reach to it. So the only way to access this portion of the drill is to be put in a harness and basically lowered like in between platforms.
Almost like a window washer or something, right?
That's
like,
a great analogy. Imagine a window washer, except they're on this drill. And so he's done this before. This is a routine thing. He goes out to the drill. There's all these guys that are standing on the platform that sort of sat right above where the issue was, which is down below, like 10 feet below them. And so he gets out there, and so the way that they run this harness system is they have this thing called a mouse hole, which is, so there's like, imagine a huge platform that kind of expands the entire, space that is the platform, like the oil rig. It's the entire width and depth of the oil rig. And in the very center is like this big cutout, the circle where the drill fits right through it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't lower him through that space between the drill and the cutout, because the drill kind of wobbles around. You can get crushed between it. And so on every single platform, there's like 10 or 15 of them, they would cut these 10-inch by 10-inch holes that were sort of like 2-3 feet away from the central cutout, and they would lower their harnesses through those so that basically people like Gordon could access these inaccessible places on
Without
the
being
drill.
in a situation where you get smashed.
So you're safe that way.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the platform. Again, it's nighttime. It's very windy. It's storming. And they're like, hey, it's right down there. And he's like, okay. So he goes down one level to the platform right below. You know, he can see his colleagues, 20 feet above him on the platform right above. And he's like, all right, send down the harness. And so they feed this harness, just a 3-point harness that's connected to a metal rope or a line. And they put it right down through that mouse hole on the platform above him. And that metal line that the harness is connected to feeds all the way back up to this winch that's controlled by a winch operator that's, a couple platforms up in this, glassed in sort of like overlook where they can actually see the whole platform. They can see the folks on the upper platform. They can see sort of Gordon, but they sort of have eyes on everything. And so they feed this harness down through the mouse hole. It gets to Gordon, puts the harness on, and then he gives a thumbs up to the folks right above him. And then they in turn and they call out to the winch operator, like, hey, he's ready to go up. And again, this is routine for everybody.
Yeah.
So the winch operator hits start, and the winch slowly begins to retract. And slowly but surely, Gordon is lifted off the ground on the lower platform, and he's brought up, 10 feet or whatever it was, until he could access the section of the drill that he couldn't before. And he, waves to the guys at that point, says, I'm good. I can see what I need to do. So the guys above him, they in turn, they wave to the hoist operator, like, all right, stop it. He hits the button, it stops. And so now Gordon is where he is. He fixes the drill. It begins to work again. Everything's great. And so he signals to the guys above him, like, hey, I'm ready to go back down again, because he is done. And so they turn and they ask the winch operator to go ahead and lower him. And so the winch operator's like, okay. He hits the start button and then just kind of like starts looking off into space. Like, this is his only job, is literally pushing this button.
Yeah.
That's all he does. And so he's not really paying attention. He didn't realize that he had not reversed the settings of the winch, that instead of flipping it to now when he hits start, it lowers Gordon. He had left it in retract mode. And so when he hit start, the winch began to continue to raise Gordon up towards the platform above him where that mouse hole is. And so now he's not moving quickly. This is a slow moving winch. It's like, and it's like, 10 or 15 feet until he would even get to the platform above him. So it's not like, oh my God, stop the winch. It's more like, come on, dude. Come on, Bill. Like, what are you doing up there? And so the guys on the upper platform right above Gordon, they notice this. They turn and they're like, come on, dude. Like, you screwed it up.
Yeah.
But the guy doesn't hear them. And it's so windy and loud out, and he's not really paying attention that he can't hear any of the commotion, the hoist operator. He's just like not paying attention. And so after a couple of moments, the guys on the platform and Gordon, they start to realize like he doesn't know this is happening and we can't get his attention. And he was several platforms above them. It'd be hard to get to him quickly. Yeah. And so they have this phone that's right nearby that radios up to the hoist operator. And so the guys are like, oh my God, he's not stopping. And Gordon by this point is starting to scream. And so one of them, the guys right above Gordon, they run to this phone, they grab it, they call, the hoist operator answers it. And he's like, stop the winch, it's going the wrong way. And so the hoist operator, he's like, oh my God. And he hits stop. He turns it and he begins to lower it, but nothing happens. Well, it was too late. So what had happened in the space of time between them realizing this wasn't stopping and going to the phone is Gordon had been pulled all the way up to right below the platform. And the only way he was going to go is through the mouse hole, which is a 10-inch by 10-inch hole. And the harness had no quick release on it. It was actually hooked to him. It was like somehow hooked to him in the back, but basically it was pulling from his waist. And so this 3-point harness that he can't get out of raised him up until his pelvis was pressed to the underside of this hole. And then slowly, as they finally got the guy on the phone, it pulled his pelvis through the hole. And so by the time the guy hit stop, the guy's spine, pelvis, and most of his torso had been ripped through. And unfortunately,
he made it.
And he made it.
Wow.
This is a really uplifting story.
So this is the one you think about a lot.
I do, because what they said about Gordon is when he reached the underside of the hole, when the winch is about to pull him through, and he knows it.
He knows it.
And it's a graded platform. They're looking down. He had sprawled himself out, hands above him, feet below him, like trying to push himself away from the winch that's pulling him pelvis first into this small hole. and they watched as this dude is like doing everything he can to stop as his spine broke and his pelvis was slowly pulled through the hole. And so ultimately so he died, and
did that guy get a bad mark at work? The winch operator?
They said, you didn't do a great job that night. You got to pick it up next time.
You're getting a 1 check mark next to your name.
You're not getting a 3, you're getting a 2.
Wow. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong, it'll knock your socks off and your neighbor's socks as well. You'll have to move towns with the amount of noise you'll be making. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. This combo acts fast and lasts. Guys, be ready when she needs it and get your first month of Blue Chew free. Great sex is a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And let me tell you something, I have never been harder for longer, and it's all thanks to Blue Chew. I pop one of those in my mouth, and I'm harder than I was than when I was 16, and my T was just through the roof. It's an amazing feeling. Walk around all day, rock hard. Make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code BEARS. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code BEARS. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Mental health awareness is growing, but there's still progress to be made. 26% of Americans who participated in a recent survey said that they have avoided seeking mental health support due to a fear of judgment. I remember those days. I remember 2001 saying, I'm going to the therapist for the first time, and someone said, do not say that out loud. When people hesitate to get help, it doesn't just affect them, it impacts families, workplaces, and entire communities. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. Let's encourage everyone to take care of their well-being and break the stigma. The world is better when people are healthy and happy. Listen, I talk about going to therapy because I want to break the stigma of mental health. I am in couples therapy with my wife. We have a great marriage. We are doing this preemptively, so that when problems arise, we have tools to handle them, and it works. It freaking works. She said the other day I was putting something in the oven, and I went, Leanne, and she goes, what did I do? What did I do? And she was behaving like my parents, the way my parents behave, and we were reenacting my parents' relationship, and I put it in the oven, and we walked outside and used the tools we learned in therapy to get through it. And she said, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Trust me, therapy works. BetterHelp has over 10 years of experience matching people with the right therapist from their diverse network of more than 30,000 licensed therapists with a wide range of specialties. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Easily switch therapists at any time for no extra cost. We're all better with help. Visit BetterHelp.com/bears to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bears.
That's intense, man.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The one I was watching your stuff, and I was watching the 5 guys that went missing.
That's an old one.
I know
That's an old one.
but that's like I watched a bunch. I watched a recent one too, but the unexplained.
I know this. Yeah, actually, it's funny that story, which I don't remember the details great, but I do remember the story. It's funny. That was one of the early videos, and I had filmed that at like 3 a.m, and I actually had a huge booger in my nose that I didn't catch.
Oh, cool.
And so that video, I just couldn't stop.
It's
I
the
couldn't
booger
watch.
video
It's the
for
booger
you.
video. But yeah, that's the Yuba County Five.
The Yuba County Five. That's right. The Yuba County Five, which is the American version of the
Dyatlov Pass.
Yeah,
Correct.
Dyatlov
Yeah,
Pass.
and as I recall, it was like 5 folks that had mental disabilities.
Yeah, some type of like special needs.
Yeah,
but high functioning.
very high functioning, and I don't know. I kind of forget. Like
I remember.
Okay, tell me.
Yeah, well, I remember
forget.
that it was that the 5 of them basically had, some type of, like, they're high functioning, but with some type of disability.
Yep.
And they basically were 5 guys that really came alive together. Like they, even though they had their own issues, let's say with groups or in public settings, when they were together, they were great and they loved basketball.
Yep.
And they had a huge basketball game the following day, but they wanted to go watch a game, a college game, San Jose State or something like
sounds
that.
right.
And so they went to the game to watch it, and then it was like, now it's time to go back, drive back like an hour or something back, maybe more, so that they could get some rest and be able to play in the game the next day, right? And when one of them didn't show up, one of the parents became concerned. By the next morning, all 5 had not returned home. So they alerted authorities, like, these 5 guys didn't come home from this basketball game. And making this long story short, their vehicle was found 70 miles in the wrong direction up a hill, just like parked, which like had nothing to do with how they should have gone home, essentially, right? And eventually one of their bodies is found, but it's found like in this
cabin, right?
like a cabin, like sort of makeshift sort of cabin, but the guy's wrapped in blankets, but there's he had resources. Like, that's what was found. They found clothes, military, like food rations, a heating source, firewood, kindling, everything to make a fire. So like, kind of didn't make sense that this guy was wrapped in these blankets and had died somewhat from starvation, somewhat from the elements, because he had the resources to be eating. And so like, but that's one guy. And then 2 more were found 10 miles in another direction, and they had been, eaten mostly.
Yeah.
And then, so like, these guys were found everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was this crazy, well, I guess it still remains this mystery of like, why did they go in this direction? Is it as simple as a wrong turn? Doesn't seem likely. Odd place to have the car found, just like parked. Didn't seem like in the video you said the police said it didn't match what they would interpret as kind of lost driving, which is like usually in a loop or something. But yeah, it's one of those stories where like you hear that story and you're like, God, I want to know.
I know
what really led to this. But that's part of the thing, right? Those mysteries just kind of sit with you.
You're an amazing storyteller, dude.
No, well, thanks.
I told that story, and I'm like, wow, like I forget what happened.
I'm just telling you your own
That's
story.
great.
You're like,
No,
that should happen
really
to
good.
me, man.
Dude.
I love these stories too. My first job out of college was I worked for America's Most Wanted.
Really?
So, yeah. So that was my first job.
Did you go for that? Did they recruit you? How'd that happen?
I did an internship the summer prior when I was still in college, and I worked for one of their spin-off shows called Final Justice.
No kidding.
So I was doing all that, and they hired me, and I was a researcher, so I would pitch stories.
Oh, wow.
So I'd be like, let's go get this. And then they were like, great. So yeah, you just pitch them crime stories, essentially. So I've always liked this genre, It's
Dude,
like,
that's great. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, but like I'm telling you, like, if you do enjoy these things, this channel is great because it's really like, I don't know. I also think part of it is that we all of us have limited attention spans now, especially in this day and age.
Yes.
And the stories are very consumable, which is like, you might have like a 23-minute video and it has like 3 stories.
Yep.
So it means like you're kind of like, you're getting the important parts of the story. There's still like an arc to it. And then there's some type of resolution, either just the results or the end climax of the story. And I feel like, if you see a video and it says like hour 38, you're like, I don't know, man.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Too much to commit to.
It's a lot. It's a lot to commit to.
Yeah, it's funny that you said about the Yuba County Five, how you're left thinking like, I just want to know what happened.
Yeah.
I would say that if anything, that is the sentiment that I have always felt, like being so drawn to like these stories, less for the morbid curiosity that I mentioned before, and more like I studied philosophy in college. At one point I thought I'd be a lawyer, and I used to love the thought experiments that you do in philosophy. These, pretend you have a bow and arrow where you can shoot the arrow and it can go in any direction infinitely, and it'll never stop unless it reaches the edge of existence. It could be billions and trillions and unbelievable distances away, but the edge of existence is the only thing that will stop it. Mm-hmm. So either that happens, or you can believe that the arrow continues infinitely because the universe is infinite. So like those are the 2 camps you have to fall into. And then the class is asked, like, which do you believe would happen? The arrow hits the edge of existence, a wall, so to speak, or, the universe is infinite and it goes on forever, both of which present unique problems. The first being, if you say there's a wall, it hits the edge of existence, no matter how far away it is. As a human, we have to ask ourselves, well, what's on the other side of that wall? It's not nothingness, because that actually is something. It's not a void. That is something. It's not a black hole. That is something. We can't conceptualize of nothingness. And so it forces us to say, okay, well, then it's infinite. But if it's infinite, the word infinite implies everything in the universe has happened an infinite number of times and has been duplicated and iterated upon an infinite number of times, which means that there literally has to be, by definition of the word infinite, another Earth, where the only change to the entire Earth and the history of Earth is that, like, that Oso's bottle is not on this table. And literally everything else that happened on Earth is identical from start to finish. But it's like that's string theory, where it's like this, there's an infinite number of us everywhere. It's like both outcomes are like problematic. And I loved not having an answer, but there is one. There is an answer.
There is an answer.
We don't have it. That's the same way of, like, right now, like, there are these exoplanets out there that there's a couple, they found like 5,000 of these planets that are called exoplanets that are in what are called the Goldilocks zone. So it's the perfect universal conditions, at least as far as we know it, that in theory they could have liquid water. They could support life, these planets. There's like 5,000, and many of them actually, like Earth, we're barely into the Goldilocks zone. We're barely habitable. But they found like 5,000 in this little, they've only begun looking too, that in theory could support life. They're too far away for us to get to. But no matter what, if there's life, it's happening right now. We just we don't know about it. And so, I'm thinking to myself, forget the time and space, issue of, like, maybe time's different at certain distances. Just imagine right now, whether or not we know it, there is potentially other life on those exoplanets right now. Maybe they have cities, maybe they have stuff better than ours, but it exists or it doesn't exist. But there is an answer, but we don't have access to that information. And so I've always been fascinated by stories that force you to confront the limits of human understanding, like the Yuba County Five. There is an answer for that, but we don't have the information. There may or may not be life on exoplanets, but we don't have access to the information. But there is an answer. And I love stories that make you think about that.
You're so much smarter than Bert. It's so fun to talk to you. Yeah, there is an answer, and that is the thing that, like, the other one, like the types of stories too that always, like, you had another one about this. It was a family where it was like a man, his wife, and maybe one or two children, but the wife and the children went away for the weekend.
Oh yeah,
because he wanted to watch the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah,
and when they got home, like the VCR was still recording, and the kitchen still had like food, like ready to eat, like a sandwich was like ready to go, and they were like, oh, he must be, he must have run out or something. This is strange, but he clearly was like just here.
Yep.
And then he just never appears. And the way that the story unfolds of, like, a body being, I think it was a body was found
like in California. I
yes,
think it was
like
thousands of miles away.
And then DNA was used to confirm, I believe, right? Wasn't it the DNA confirmed?
I do know. I think they confirmed that this is an older one.
Yeah.
That he was found thousands of miles away, like walking on the side of the highway.
On the side of the highway. But, like, those things, so this guy, he died.
Yeah.
But those stories where you're like, wait a minute, what's the fucking story? Is like the thing, right? Where you go, yeah, but there has to be some explanation for how and why he ended up here. I mean, it almost feels like one of those, like, when the person decides, like, I'm faking my death today.
Oh, yeah.
Like those stories where you're like, oh my God, because I don't know, we'll never actually really know.
I know
what happened to that guy,
which is very frustrating.
Yeah. By the way, when you look at the space stuff, do you ever go to like the NASA IG and just look at the comments for anything they post? All of them are like, why lie? Like, it'll be like a photo. They're like, hey, we just got this image from and they're like, why lie? This AI. Why you guys?
Dude,
why you guys
buys it.
Not one.
Nobody buys it.
And you're
dude.
like, God damn! Like, most of the population is like, this is bullshit. Like,
dude,
like,
it's crazy.
Hey, we have a photo of Jupiter's moon. Bullshit. And you're like,
why lie?
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to believe it's real. I do. But yeah, no, I love. Here it
Is
is.
that Katy Perry? Good Photoshop.
Sure. Is that Katy Perry?
Yeah. You know my favorite one? Because there's a lot of morons, obviously. My favorite is when there's any image of the moon and people go, "Where's the flag?" Like as if the moon is a football field.
It's very small.
And like you would know, you could see it all. It's like it's equivalent of somebody showing a photo of Earth and you being like, "Yeah, there's my house." Like, no, you're not gonna fucking see the whole thing, dude. Like, where's the flag?
Obviously fake.
Jesus Christ. Some good green screen, y'all. Just fucking insane.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody buys any of it. That's great. That's so crazy.
I mean, you can kind of see it with like the...
Filmed at night in Arizona. AI NASA.
I mean, maybe it's all a big ruse.
Sure.
It's a hell of a ruse.
Yeah, my favorite part about that ruse is the amount of people participating.
It's one of the best coordinated ruses in the history
You
of mankind.
realize 7 people can't agree on an appetizer, but all of a sudden we have fucking 40,000
Best kept
people
secret
going
in
like,
the
yeah,
world.
we'll all keep this secret. It's cool. Yeah. Fucking, I wish I was that just blissfully dumb. Just go along with it.
What do you think about the Katy Perry, the 5 who went to space? Is that real?
Did they go up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't eat, but like, you know,
That's the one that everyone's saying is fake.
that's not
which is
fake.
not the moon.
What are you talking about?
It's like it's because it's like, oh, we're just gonna trash these 5 people, so
I
let's
mean-
call it fake.
And also the part that they get into like disagreements are like, what's space, right?
Right.
So how high up? Sure, I know they didn't go as far as our astronauts go. It's basically a trip that a really wealthy person can go extra high in a plane,
Real high.
Yeah, they didn't go to the outermost depths of space.
Than
but
fucking Pluto.
I get it, but people are saying. I mean, I saw this guy who's like, his whole channel on Instagram is like, everything that he shows, he's like, it's a hologram. You're like, it's not a fucking hologram, dude. He's like, look at the glitch here. And you're like, I don't
Hologram.
think you understand how frame rates work on cameras, but that's an actual rocket going up and down. Yeah, I think they took their trip.
Yeah.
They
They just got dunked on. I mean, that's what's happening here. It's like it
well, you also
became-
know that no one was ever going to really be like celebrate this.
Yes, these
are
5.
just 250 grand a ticket if you want to do this.
That's insane.
It reminds me of like when the COVID celebrities did Imagine All the, and everyone was like, the fuck? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about these
Yeah.
5. And they were making it seem like these were like 5 researchers that finally got their
This
shot.
is for humanity.
Yeah, no. It's just 5 rich people, basically.
that's all it is.
Who got to go up and do this.
Yeah, I think that's the main gripe. This is not for humanity. This is a rich
No.
person's vacation.
And I like that they did what universities do when they do their pamphlets, where they're like, make sure we get an Asian, couple blacks. Nice. We want people to know that we do it. Everybody's
Well,
welcome.
it's for humanity.
Yeah. And
You
they're
know.
like, okay, yeah.
So that didn't go over too well.
No. And they have to also like they have to look hot while they're
I
doing
think
it.
that's a key to being an astronaut. Is
Yeah.
you have to look really attractive.
Make sure it's a form-fitting suit that shows off your. Like Lauren's is clearly bespoke. Like it fits her so well.
Exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't. She didn't just pick that one up. They measured her and they're like, yeah,
hey,
no,
it's
we
part
got
of the
it.
deal.
Yeah, I don't know. It's. Oh, it even says this. Look, it's a successor to Imagine video. That's what it says in the caption there. Which is that's what it reminds me of.
Nice.
Like it's exactly that. It's like
you hit it. You felt the vibe.
completely out of touch, inaccessible,
Yeah.
unrelatable thing. Yeah.
You love to see it.
Aren't you happy for us? No, no one is.
No, it is.
Nobody's happy for you.
Yeah.
You also, we didn't touch, but you actually started your videos doing stories of like your Navy SEAL days.
I did.
And-
Didn't go over well.
So other SEALs, they get mad at like SEALs who are like talking about basically how badass it is to be a SEAL, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, so there's like this. The thing is because I was in the SEAL teams and really I knew the culture firsthand. You know, despite what you see today, where like you can Google Navy SEAL and there's a plethora of books and TV shows and movies, and there's no shortage of people talking about their experience. And I'm not passing judgment at all. I did a lot of that myself. But despite that, there's actually a huge number of active duty Navy SEALs and former SEALs who are not going to say a word, who have done some of the most insane shit you could imagine.
Yeah.
And they will never utter a word of it to anybody.
Yeah.
And so when you're in the community, like, you're very aware of that. Like, you see firsthand, like my first day at SEAL Team 2. So SEAL Team 2 is on the East Coast. So I finished like my two years of training or whatever it is. It's like this arduous, long journey. You finally made it. And then it's like check-in day.
Yeah.
And like, it's been building to this moment, like you've done all this stuff, but then you realize like, oh my God, like I have to walk into this like heavily guarded building where active veteran SEALs are. And I'm like the brand new guy who's done nothing. So it's very intimidating. It's designed to be very intimidating.
Sure.
And so you go in your dress uniform. So you stand out like an idiot because you have no rhythm. You've done nothing. So you have nothing on your uniform that suggests you've done anything. But I went into SEAL Team 2 and you have to go through the gate to get into the base. Then there's another fence that you have to get through. And then there's another door to get into the building. It's this nondescript tan building. You can't even see inside of it, but it's like where SEAL Team 2 is. And there's a couple hundred SEALs per SEAL team and loads of support people, but there's lots of SEALs in this building. And when I checked in, it was supposed to be, like Christmas break. So I didn't expect to see that many active SEALs. I thought like I'd sneak my check-in day, kind of get my thing punched, and then I'd get to show up in my regular uniform a couple days later, kind of blend in a little bit. But no, the platoon of SEALs, the 25 SEALs or whatever it was, that I was going to be joining their platoon, had just come back from Afghanistan. It was like a rocky deployment. Nobody got killed, but a bunch of people got hurt. And they had come back from the backside, like they came in the secret entrance that I didn't know about, and so they're in SEAL Team 2, and I'm checking in to their platoon, and they're like in street clothes, and like they got back from the battlefield like a week ago, okay, and very kinetic deployment, like doing lots of stuff, and so I finally get inside of SEAL Team 2, and I'm like petrified, and this guy walks down the hall, and he's got this like comically like action figure looking scar that went from the top of his head across his face, over his eye, down his side. He is yoked beyond belief, like steroided out like you wouldn't believe. He's like this huge guy, and he's hulking down the hallway. And he had cut off his cami pants to be like short shorts, which is a whole thing. Like there's short shorts are a thing that guys do it to be like funny because we like are super masculine big dudes wearing short shorts.
Yeah.
So this dude's walking down the hall covered in tattoos, and he's got this huge scar. And he's like, "What the fuck do you want?"
That's what he says, and you're like, "Hi, I'm new.
I'm joining your team."
Yeah,
but like these are the types of people that are like in this guy. He had an IED had blown up in his face, and then he had gone on to like save somebody's life. And it's just another day in the life of the SEAL teams. But there's like all these people that are like true like superheroes in the SEAL teams. That it's just a thing that you don't really talk about what happens in the SEAL teams. And it's not really to do with the sensitivity of it, like from a classified perspective, although certainly that's a component of it.
Yeah.
It's much more like the trident, the insignia that you wear, the gold gaudy insignia. It was built on other people dying, basically. Like the culture, the history, the pride around this brand, if you will, not to cheapen it, but around this brand was really built almost literally on people dying.
Yeah.
And doing stuff that's just unbelievably horrible. And for you, an individual, to go out and even in a sort of benign way, talk about your experience to the civilian public who just look at Navy SEALs as, "Oh my God, you're so amazing." You're capitalizing on other people's deaths. Even if you say, "Oh, I'm just using it to teach leadership," or "I'm just doing it to talk about adversity," in the active duty community, it's viewed as incredibly exploitative because anybody who's in knows the sacrifices firsthand that are being made. And the people that are never going to talk about it. And then if you get out and you're like, "Hey, I was a Navy SEAL," and you say it to non-SEALs, to civilians, they're going to look at you as if you're the superhero from inside the team who's never going to talk about it. And so you're taught, I want to say like from day one of training, to basically never talk about being a SEAL. Or if you do, it needs to be so downplayed that you're like trying not to talk about being a SEAL in relationship to the public. But there's a conundrum there because you put all your life into becoming a SEAL. It's this really difficult thing. And you finally become a SEAL, and you go through these crazy experiences. I mean, I was only in for the shortest amount of time you could be a SEAL. So 7 years. It's the shortest amount you can be a SEAL for. So I did nothing. But in those 7 years, I've seen combat. I've been nearly killed. I've nearly drowned. I've done all these fucking crazy things. And so what? I'm supposed to leave the military and never talk about those 7 years.
I mean, I guess there's people that do that, but also
Totally.
You know, you also have the personality. Like some people it's not in them to do that. Not even because of the way they view the unspoken rules of it. They just don't have the personality to share.
Express it.
Yeah,
That's
express
definitely
it.
true.
That's part of it, right? Like it is like, dude, it is the ultimate resume line I think especially amongst males. Like it doesn't matter if you're talking to like a super academic or if you're talking to like a total meathead. Somebody says SEAL, both those guys are like, no shit. Like
cool.
They're like, that's the coolest thing. It kind of is the coolest thing. I think my perspective on special forces also, as I've gotten older, the thing that I used to just kind of like brand it as like, oh, badass.
Yeah.
But you realize that badass is just kind of this broad stroke, doesn't really mean much.
Sure.
The thing that I think about now when I think about, because I know a number of SEALs and other special forces guys, is like I go, oh, this person has like I really think about their mental. Like I go, they're mentally tough.
Yeah.
Like they're capable of hitting a switch or opening a door in there that not everybody. That's the thing that I think about. Like this person will push themselves harder than everybody else in this room. Like they're willing to suffer more.
That's actually what you just said at the end. I was going to say that. That's true. There's like this mental thing that you access when you go through training. So the training, I mean, really it's 2 years long of training, but really there's 6 months of it, which is called BUDS. It's out in San Diego. It's the famous part of training. All it really is putting you in increasingly stressful situations where there's also your peers are watching your performance. So it's the stress of being watched by instructors and your peers and doing the stressful thing over and over and over again, where you have less and less sleep, you're more and more tired, you're more and more beat up. It isn't that you gain the skill to put up with it. It isn't like you learn it and you gain it. It's either you fucking have it or you don't. And you will learn if you have it by the end of training. And so it's like you realize there's this gear in you where you can suffer longer than the average person can, and that's what SEAL training teaches you more than anything else.
I can withstand.
You can withstand just horrors.
Yeah.
If you've done it before, and they tell you during training, like, this is nothing compared to what you're gonna do like in actual combat and on deployments. And I remember thinking, like, come on, like, we're simulating drowning. I'm going to be doing that every day out on deployment. But the truth is, there were definitely times where, you know, on my single combat tour, I only did one that was combat. There were absolutely moments where I'm like, holy shit, that was right. Like this was way more stressful, more cold, more miserable than anything in training. And it's because I've accessed that before that I'm able to function at a high level.
Your brain was able to like keep going.
And then you look around, and when I got hurt, and a grenade detonated near me, and it nearly killed me, and my teammates saved my life. But after I was in the hospital, they did this whole debrief with me, where like they ask you, you know, what happened, you know, what could you have done differently? And my debrief point that was then put into like a couple speeches that this commander gave was, to be honest, my memory of what happened on the night that the grenade detonated next to me, and there were 7 of us in this alleyway in the middle of the night, middle of a gunfight. This thing detonates and it nearly kills me, and everyone's like hurt. Our medic is the one guy who's concussed but not hurt, and he's under fire, like dragging us to safety. We called in what's called a danger close airstrike, where you have to get the initials of your commander, I think it is, where you're effectively calling in an airstrike on yourself because you're overrun, and it's like, try not to hit us. You know, but we're prepared to be killed because we have to take out the enemy. It's like this chaotic scene. My debrief point was, in that chaos, even though I was sort of in and out of consciousness, all I saw was calm. Like the JTAC, who's the guy in charge of talking to the aircraft. He's got radios talking on both ears. He has his internal comms with like the people on the ground that are trying to figure out where we are.
Yeah.
And he has this where it's like 8 different aircrafts that are all flying above us asking, what do you want to drop? Where do you want to drop it? And he's also talking to the medic who's working on me. So he's got like 8 conversations happening. He's like, all right, yep. Hold on, Charlie 1. Go ahead and drop it over there. Yep, go ahead. Foxtrot 3. Like, calm as can be.
Incredible.
And I told the commander, my debrief point was like, the training works. like in the worst environment,
Yeah.
calm is what ultimately came through. Everyone was just, yep, we're just doing the things we've been trained to do.
This
It's
is
like
what
gunfire, explosions.
This
just
is what
calm.
fucks up most people in life, even outside of combat situations. In stressful situations, people don't stay calm. You know, like like they're not in combat, but it's like when things get crazy, it's like the whole thing is you come out of that usually if you're the one that can stay calm.
Yes, and and also when you're around other SEALs, especially older guys that have done multiple rotations that are really grizzled, it really helps you be calm because you're seeing other people just being calm.
Yeah.
Like there's no panic response. Everyone's just like, "All right, you go in there." And then, like in there is like active shooters. We're trying just go in there and take
go
them
in
out.
there and take them out. It's fucking nuts, dude.
And that's
Can you actually, because this is what I was curious about, can you sign up for the Navy and go, I want to go to Bud School? Like, can you just sign up? You can.
You can.
You don't have to like serve time, like, you know, be in there for a while as a regular. No.
No, it's sort of conditional though. So it used to be the case for the longest time that you had to join the Navy, become a regular Navy person doing whatever job, and then only once you were established were you able to like transfer and go try out for the SEAL teams. And if you didn't make it, you'd go back to the job you had. Now, really, when I joined, which was in 2010. That was right when they started this thing called the Navy SEAL Challenge Contract. They were trying to drum up support. It was right before the Bin Laden raid happened, so there wasn't as much interest. I was in Buds when Bin Laden was taken out, and they called all the SEALs and everybody onto the grinder, this famous location where all the PT happens.
Yeah.
And our commander was like, "We fucking killed Bin Laden." Everyone's like, "Yeah!" Like all these SEAls, and I'm like this brand new guy. I'm not. Anyways. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. So the SEAL Challenge contract is you go to once you pass like a physical screening test to demonstrate you're fit enough, you basically go to boot camp where you have a kind of like different boot camp than normal. It's a little bit harder, I suppose. And then after boot camp, you basically go directly to SEAL training. If you don't make it though, which a lot of people don't, like statistically more than 75% probably won't make it. Those numbers are probably wrong, but it's a lot. You get recycled to what's called needs of the Navy, which basically means you have to stay in the Navy and do your enlistment or do your contract, but you don't have a job because you didn't go to a job. And so the Navy basically says, okay, we need someone to paint stripes on the road in Japan.
Fucking A,
like
man.
straight up. So it's like, now that's not everybody, but it's a pretty crappy thing. But to close out what I was saying before, I got out of the military and I posted a lot of stuff about being a SEAL.
Yeah.
And I knew what I was doing was breaking this unspoken rule, but I was medically retired, and it cast me out of the military faster than I expected. I got kids, I'm married, a lot of excuses, but I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I'll just talk about being a SEAL on the internet. And
Yeah.
so like I dressed it up in my mind that I'm doing this to like teach people things.
Yeah.
When in reality, I'm trying to build a personal brand to make money, to have an income, because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And I got fucking disowned real quick.
Really?
Oh, hardcore. Like,
That kind of sucks, man.
yeah, I mean, like, but the thing is I can't act like I didn't expect it to happen.
Yeah, you kind of knew what was
100%.
coming.
And so even though I fucking hated the people who would send me like these, by the way, the hate that I got is different than typical online hate like that I'll get on YouTube or something. These are people that want you to know who's sending it to you. That will like make a point to be like, here's my name, here's where I live, come meet me. Like it's not like, oh, you suck. It's like, hey buddy, I'm the chief over at a development group, SEAL Team 6, and I saw your fucking post. Why don't you shut the fuck up online?
Wow.
Yeah, stuff like, I had a Medal of Honor recipient be like, you're a fucking clown.
Really?
Yeah, so
That does suck, though.
yeah, it was humbling, but what it did is I deleted my SEAL content because I was like, well, this is a horrible idea and not
And
worth it.
transition to this.
I'll tell that story about the Dyatlov Pass mystery.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
went viral, and I was just fortunate enough to be here.
Well, I'm glad that happened.
Yeah,
I mean,
hey, and now I do something that's totally divorced from the military, which is nice because it just allows me to have like a truly second career and not draft on the first one.
Yeah, I have a few SEAL friends. My favorite thing is just to get a couple drinks in them because they'll start telling better stories.
Yeah, I bet they're really good.
Yeah, because you're like asking sober, and they're like, yeah, and then you go, here, have another, and then they're like, I'll tell you. So we were coming up on this ridgeline, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Dude.
So my dad was a Marine.
Nice.
And
I think I knew that.
He said, there's no greater feeling than killing the enemy. Do you feel like that is also true?
There is no greater feeling than when you get contacted, so when shots ring out,
Yeah.
there's a combination of where's it coming from,
Yeah.
and that's sometimes very hard to figure out.
Sure.
And then when you realize that you and the forces that you have at your back, which is innumerable. I mean, you have like A-10 Warthog jets coming in. You got fixed wing. You got castle. You have You have the arsenal of the United States at your back.
All the toys.
And when you realize that the people who are trying to kill you have been discovered,
Yeah.
and you now get to call in your armament,
Yeah.
and handle it, it's like, oh, we just won.
My one of my friends told me that he goes, I had a different experience than you as an American, because he's a SEAL. He's like, because when 9/11 happened, he goes, that experience for Americans stateside was kind of a universal thing. He's like, we were deployed. He's like, so it was like, it was news, but you didn't get to feel. And I was like, yeah, but so what happened? He was like, oh man, they gave us stuff that we'd never seen before. He's like, all this shit that you hear about, things are in development. He's like, those weapons just showed up and they were like, go use these. He's like, we just got to
Laser beams.
mow down places. And he was like, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, so my memory of 9/11 isn't like what you experienced. He's like, it was just they're like, here's all the stuff. Go ahead and use it. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy.
When we got to Afghanistan for my one combat tour, it was like this little outstation that was, meaning it was not a big fortified base. It was like this little couple of tents and HESCO barriers. It was pretty small, but there was this underground bunker that had been basically building up over the course of the entire Operation Enduring Freedom. So the entire time NATO has been in Afghanistan for post 9/11 war, this bunker was being filled with anything Spec Ops guys wanted, because this was a Spec Ops outstation. And so it's like this little, you can barely even tell it's a bunker. It's this shitty rusted door. You open it up and it's just like this vault of every type of munition you could possibly imagine. Just as far, it's like that scene in Indiana Jones,
Yeah,
where it's putting away the boxes. So with the whatever it is, it's like this unbelievable scene. And we would go in there and go shopping, look for stuff we wanted to bring on our
That's
operations.
fucking cool.
It's
I
crazy.
mean, that's so cool. Yeah, that's why this is like, it's not as obviously as romantic as the movies, but this is why every dude sees any Spec Ops thing and they're like, this is the coolest. Like, it just seems like the coolest.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even when I was literally a SEAL, I would be around these other guys that have been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
And you're just in awe.
Yeah.
Some guys, I'll say this, so there's the white side and the dark side of within the SEAL community.
Yeah.
There's basically the white side, which is all the SEAL teams with the exception of SEAL Team 6. And then the dark side is SEAL Team 6. And it's basically, I was never a part of it, didn't screen for it. I've not been a part of it. So this is only what I know, knowing people over there and sort of knowing the process. But to become a SEAL Team 6 operator, and this is not secret, you become a SEAL, a white side SEAL. You go through BUDS, you do your 2 years of training, and you check into a vanilla team, so a white side team, like SEAL Team 2 is a white side team. And you have big mission sets, but the president isn't calling SEAL Team 2 to be go get bin Laden. The president is calling SEAL Team 6 to do these tier 1 operations, the most sensitive that are no-fail missions. And so what you do is, if you become a white side SEAL, so you're a percentage of a percentage of people that have made it to that point.
Yeah.
You then have to deploy at least once. It's usually twice. And usually the expectation is you got to see combat. After you finish, you basically go through this totally new screening process where if SEAL Team 6 has looked at your resume as a SEAL and has talked to people and thinks that your reputation is good enough, you get the chance to go try out for SEAL Team 6. It is apparently the guys that have made it through, it is arguably 10 times harder than anything you did to become a SEAL, because now the starting point is everybody's a Navy SEAL with probably combat experience. So how do we figure out who's the best SEALs amongst the SEALs? And so it's this, it's grueling. Guys get these horrible injuries. It's these crazy long, it's a year of training, and a handful of these SEALs make it through. So it's 50 guys start, it'll be 10 get through, and barely. It's brutal. Those guys, you know who they are from the start.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna say his name, but like there was a guy who was it's called my LPO, my leading petty officer. He was basically my immediate report. So he was sort of in charge of the 25 of us. He was the guy who, if we were on an operation, he not only led it, but was like going in the door like with us. So he's like a boots on the ground leader. This dude was so good at fucking everything. He could perfect marksman. Like he was actually the guy on comms with like 9 different things going on in the middle of that disaster. Like there's just something different about some of these guys that go to SEAL Team 6. And like I can't like it's like those are 2 different classes of people. There's SEAL Team 6 guys and there's guys like me.
Wow.
I look at SEAL Team 6 guys in awe.
They're the all pros.
They're like the all pros of the all pros.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So and I remember
what was your injury? You said because it was a grenade went off?
So at the end of the deployment in 2014, or not at the end, but towards the end, one of our missions or one of our regular operations was we were trying to sort of slow the tide of weapons shipments and suicide bombers making their way into Kabul, the big city in Afghanistan. And there was this town called Zarganshar, which is, it's mud huts everywhere, and it's typical Afghani sort of architecture, but it was a very densely populated area that was kind of situated up against this mountain, and that's where a lot of the suicide bombers and weapon caches would be kept before going to Kabul. And so over the course of our deployment, we would go in there basically to stop people or whatever, and it was very kinetic. We'd go in there, we get shot at, and there was just this one day after, this is months of doing this, we're very familiar with the area. We go in and we just got effectively ambushed. We sort of walked into an alleyway. Unknowingly, there were people up in the windows. They started shooting at us. A couple of our partner force got shot. Our dog got shot. But the SEALs were able to sort of take up positions and fight back. And over the course of like maybe 5-6 hours, there was like sporadic gunfighting throughout the city, village, whatever you want to call it. But it was one of those days where we never saw who was shooting at us. I mentioned to you before, like sometimes you really don't know.
You don't know.
They had the drop on us. They had all these, the fighting season had just begun. It was starting to get warm. And so there were like lots of extra fighters in town, and they had these tunnels underground where they would just vanish. And so we're basically getting fucked up, like getting shot up. We can't find them. And it was getting to the point where we're like, well, this sucked. Like this was a bad day. And so it's nighttime and we're getting ready to leave. And by this point, we had broken up into smaller teams called fire teams, where you're just like little clusters of SEALs and partner force. And our drone overhead spotted what they thought were what they called military age men, MAMs for short. You can't see if they have weapons on them or not from the overhead. You can't actually positively identify weapons at all. You can suggest that you think they have it, but basically all you can say is, hey, there are some MAMs. They're positioned in a field that's sort of near where you're going to be exfilling, and it looks like they're setting up to attack you on the way out. And so our fire team just happened to be physically closest to where these guys were.
Yeah.
And so we decided we would just, it's dark, we're on night vision, just sneak over to this wall that sort of overlooked this field. And based on the intel from this drone, we believed we could get up to this wall, poke our heads over, and on the far side of this field, like 100 yards away from us, would be these MAMs. And we could kind of scope out who they were, what they're doing. And so we went down this alleyway that went right up to this like T intersection where the T right in front of us is the wall. We're going to be peering over into this field. We go down to the wall, and again, we're expecting to look over the wall, look on the other side, see these guys. But when we got there, the intel was sort of backwards. And it's all been filmed. Like we had people back home or back at the different bases watching this, like, what the fuck are you guys doing? We get to the wall and we realize that we can actually hear these military age men. And there was at least several of them. They were combatants, but they hadn't heard us. And we are literally, this wall is maybe 6-7 feet tall. That's all that separates us, this mud wall between these guys who are hunched up against the wall. They're talking frantically, like we didn't know what they were saying because we had sort of broken off from our main group. And so we're all on night vision. It's pitch black and they haven't heard us yet. And so we knew if we walk away, they could hear us. They're going to shoot us in the back. So our decision was we're just going to engage them right now. We can see they have weapons, and this is the middle of we've already been shot at. Like we're cleared hot. And so the guy I had mentioned before, who's went to Team 6, he looked over at the guy next to me, all SEALs. He got down on his knee and he just, without making a sound, lightly, he tapped his leg, like stand on my leg and start shooting. And so The guy next to me stands on my buddy's leg, peers over the wall, and as soon as he starts shooting, these dudes on the other side of the wall, they, in fear of being compromised, in fear of being found, were all holding grenades. And they had pulled the pin out of their grenades. So the way a grenade works is there's a thing called a spoon. It's like a little handle that you clamp down. And so long as the spoon is being held, whether the pin is in or not, like it can't detonate. But if you pull the pin and then you let go of the spoon, which releases the spoon, it starts a timer and it detonates.
Yeah.
So these guys were holding the spoon, but had pulled the pin out. Basically, if they die, they'll let go of the grenade and they become a booby trap. That's the idea. And so we start engaging them. They don't pull the pin. The pins are out, and they threw the grenades over the wall. And I'm just like next to the guy who's shooting, and we had the drone overheads shining down this infrared spotlight on us that was flashing. It was a targeting sparkle, so it was like flashing in and out. And you can only see the light if you're on night vision. Otherwise, it would have been pitch black. And so under night vision, it's light for a second, then dark, light, dark, light, dark. And I see this grenade coming over the wall, and time slows down. It was like this full stop. It's like when you think you're going to die, your brain goes into hyperdrive. And so I see it in the light, it disappears, see it in the light, it hits my shoulder. And when it did, I'm like, that's going to blow my head off. I'm going to die here. It kept falling. I see it. It disappears. I see it. It makes it to and this is all in a fraction of a second. It hits like my leg, and I'm like, oh, maybe it'll just blow my legs off and I'll live. Hits the ground, and we were standing in like a sewage drainage. And so it lands in shit, basically. And then it detonates. We only managed to turn slightly. And, my memory of what happened is not what actually happened. I basically it felt like somebody threw a bunch of rocks at me, and then I was sort of on the ground, and I remember thinking oh, now I'm being dragged to safety, and I couldn't believe I was alive, when in reality, my medic, he was the one guy who hadn't been totally taken out by the grenade. The guys on the other side of the wall, despite being mortally wounded, began shooting back at us. We had these other fighters
Jesus Christ.
in the town who began, they're going to fight to the death, and so they just began shooting arbitrarily in our direction, knowing they could be hitting their own people. They don't care. RPGs are being fired at us. It's just like bedlam, and all of us are down. And my medic would tell me years later when we finally talked about it, he's like, I looked over at you and I thought you were laying on ice. I was like, that's weird. And then he realized it was actually blood because it wasn't frozen out. And he's like, there's this massive pool of blood under you that I thought was ice. But then I realized it was blood, and I triaged you. You're dead. So you
had been opened up.
Yeah, it hit my leg and my hip, and I was bleeding to death. And so I was unconscious, on the ground, immobile. My gun got the front of the barrel got blown off. Not entirely, but it damaged the gun significantly. So I was out, and my medic basically triaged and began working on the people he could save, all while getting shot at. I think he's up for the Medal of Honor, by the way. What he did was incredible.
Wow.
Pulls everybody out. They went back and got me and found I was still alive. They brought me to relative safety, which was I described that T intersection. They brought us back down the stem of that T, but fighters are still arbitrarily shooting roughly in our direction. It's rounds are impacting around us, and it's just we're about to get overrun. Nobody knows where we are because we're all spread out across the city. And so I'm just I'm aware of that I'm alive, but I'm losing blood. And I remember looking at my medic, who was feeling my legs to try to find the bleed. And he's like, you're calm as can be. You're gonna be fine. Everything's fine. And I'm I'm 100% dying. And then I remember my hearing started to sound like a helicopter, woo, 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 and then it went silent. And then my vision went totally black. So I'm in a void. I'm in my head, but totally alive. And all I could think about was a couple of things. I thought man, I wish I had started a family with my wife because I'm gonna die now.
Yeah.
And then the other part was, I wonder what it's going to say in the newspaper about this. Not how heroic I was, but specifically, I wonder if they'll use my whole name, Jonathan B. Allen or John Allen. And I was I wonder what
that was
it'll
the
say.
thought you had.
That was the salient thought I had in my head. And then seconds later, I kind of came back to, my medic had put tourniquets on my legs, seconds before I would have bled to death. And then he, along with the other guys he had saved, they picked me up and ran a mile, under
With
fire.
you.
To the helicopter that did a hot extract, where they dumped us on the helicopter, which only had space for me and the other more really badly wounded guy. Those guys had to then go back into the fray to go reconnect with the team, knowing there's fighters everywhere, and they fought their way back.
Jesus
I got
Christ.
to a tent, and when I got in there were all these SEALs that had found out seals that were not a part of our group. They were at this other base. They had discovered there's this like tracker where you can see on a computer screen what's going on. It's sort of in code. And they saw our call signs come across that designated 2 SEALs were being brought to this tent. They could be mortally wounded. And so when I got into this tent, after being brought off the helicopter, there were all these team guys, SEALs, that had put on their best uniforms and were sitting in the tent waiting to receive us in case we died. And so I get in the tent, and there's all these surgeons and doctors in white, like ready to do whatever surgery needs to happen. And I'm looking over in the corner at these guys in their uniforms, which is odd. Nobody wears nice uniforms, like somber looks on their faces. And I'm like, oh my God, am I going to die? Like, I didn't think I was going to die. And then the guy's like, all right, I'm going to give you ketamine. All right, bye. Gives me ketamine. And then I like blacked out, woke up in Germany, where that a lot of guys get, when you get hurt overseas, you go to Germany. And then like
so you just wake up in Germany.
Yeah, they had to do like a debridement where they pull the shrapnel out of you. And so I was like under drugs and woke up in Germany. And then I kid you not, like 6 days later, back home in Virginia, pushing a shopping cart through Home Depot.
Wow.
Like literally a week earlier, I nearly died, and then I was back home.
This reminds me of a mission I did on Call of Duty recently, where we go into this home.
Yeah,
dude, I'm telling you,
is that how that's how you hurt your arm?
Yeah,
from that operation.
It was fucking crazy, man. Like I had to work my way through this thing. Enemy fire from it. It's a very similar story.
It is. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I guess we're both kind of vets when you think about it that way.
It is. It's identical, dude.
Yeah, dude. It's been really it's fun getting to know you. Your content. I hate that word, but
do too.
The channel it's very fun. It's totally addictive.
Thanks, man.
Was like, I'll watch one of these and fucking 12 into them. I'm like,
well, you cited some classics. That demonstrates you're in there.
I'm in there, dude, and very excited for the graphic novel, the second one,
Where Nightmares Live, coming out end of this year.
And you can pre-order that book right now, I believe.
Yeah, if you go to book.ballenstudios.com, you can pre-order this book here. It's going to be great. The first one came out last year. It was a New York Times bestseller. This one's going to be even better. So book.ballenstudios.com. And for all things Mr. Ballen, I am Mr. Ballen on social media. You can go to ballenstudios.com. And that's it.
And there you have it. And if you have, if you want to know anything about Special Forces, just hit me up, dude. I'll tell you my experiences too. All right. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks, man.
We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, dude.
Bert and Tom, Tom and Bert. One goes topless while the other wears a shirt. Tom tells stories and Bert's the machine. There's not a chance in hell that they'll keep it clean. Here's what we call 2 bears, 1 cave.